This is something that this generation of people here in this congregation at this time can give this congregation and the community something to be very proud of.
I think it's a feeling that it puts in me. I think I feel the sound, and it kind of just, I don't know. Even a melancholy sound can cause me to have that goosebumpy feeling. So it's very emotional for me.
Pipe organs work really well in worship because they make music the same way our human voices make music, by blowing air through pipes, just like our human voices make music by breathing air through pipes. It's kind of funny, my office sits underneath the blowers that create the air for the organ. And when our organist turns on the organ, I can hear it through the walls. I can hear this breathing. So yeah, organs support our singing because they sing with us.
But also I see the organ as one chance where we can have a whole orchestra in our worship without an orchestra present. And the pipe organ is really the only instrument that can do that.
I've learned a lot about how organs work, the complexity of them. I never knew there was so many complex parts of an organ, so that's been really interesting to me.
I just love the way that organ music makes you feel the depth of it. It fills me up.
I've also seen how kids get really excited about pipe organs. I think that's because organs have all these really interesting parts to them. They're made out of wood and metal. You can take the pipes right out of the organ and just blow through them the way you would blow through a flute or a recorder. A few years ago, I took a bunch of kids from St. John's to a pipe organ discovery day, where they got to see a bunch of different churches' organs, play them, see all the different pipes and how they make sound.
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to what they're going to hear. I think they're going to hear some really cool sounds coming from this new instrument. And I think they're just going to wonder, what's that? And I want to see that. I want to make that sound again. I think that's what's really going to attract people to the organ. Whether it's an adult or a young student, because that's one of the wonderful things about the organ. It can just do it can produce so many different sounds, and I think that's just the initial excitement over the instruments, hearing all these different sounds that are really exciting and very cool, and that you don't hear anyplace else.
The traditions that we are upholding in hymnody, I value so much that we're passing those on to my children. That they're coming to the Lord with the same joy and majesty through the same music that I sang as a kid, and my parents and my grandparents, and I just find that really comforting and touching.
It has a lot of nice features. It really does. There's two things that I really find challenging, and that's not having combination action and not having stops to choose from. I'm so limited. And for the combination action, that just means like in between the hymns, I can't very quickly and effortlessly change the sounds in between the hymn verses. And I really would like to do that, especially if it's a meditative hymn. I'd like to be able to do more things to bring the text out, but I'm limited because I only have two hands and I can't keep playing and change stops at the same time as easily as I wish I could. And having combination action would certainly help with that. And then also just related to that, having more stops to choose from, different sounds. I would have different ways to solo out the melody, different ways to bring out certain texts, as in if the text was talking about the breath of God, maybe I could use some flutes, or God's mighty wind, or something like that, to use trumpets, and just use different tonal sounds to really bring those texts to life.
just practically speaking, I know that our present organ is, for it to function, to serve us well, it's going to cost a lot of money, and it's money that would be wasted because the organ's not going to survive. It served us well. It served us well because we had a number of really fine organists who have worked really hard to get the best out of what this organ can do, but it's very limited.
Knowing the age of the current instrument that we have and the likelihood that it could mechanically fail almost any time, and some of that stuff could be fixed, or at least, you know, we'd prolong the use of it for a period of time, but we'd still have all of the same full-rank organ that we've got now, and all of the difficulties that come with that organ. I will be the first to admit that we've had some very good organists over the years, and so when we start talking about an organ project and an updating, people will ask me, well, what's the matter with it? It sounds great. Well, you probably wouldn't have any idea how good it could sound until you hear a better one.
But I like the fact that we're moving forward now. I mean, this is something that the congregation has talked about in some way, shape, or form for many years. I've been involved in excess of 5 years. We've heard from people that Grant had intention to do it long before that, because Grant's been gone much longer than that. So I think it's the next step for our congregation.
We've worked really hard at lots of options, looked at lots of options, including total rebuild of this one, and have come to the conclusion that we have an opportunity to invest in an organ that is a wonderful instrument, and with the combination of pipes from this organ, can serve our congregation really well.
I've heard our congregation be really enthusiastic with their singing, with their hymn singing and their liturgy. And I think that people will just be really excited and pleased when they hear this instrument. I think they'll just really realize how much it enlivens their worship and enlivens their singing.
We're getting a wonderful, great organ for a really good, reasonable price. Yeah, the ticket on it seems high as you look at it, but when you look at what the value of the organ will be down the road, we're paying, a quarter of what the insurable amount is, and we're getting a great organ that we can use a lot of our pipes that we currently have, and that's huge for me. I mean, I am so excited that this project will allow us to use what we already have in existence for the most part.
I also see the possibility of a new organ that would fit this space, which is a wonderful space. And the acoustics that people love in here, even choral groups want to come back. And it would be tuned and voiced and the size of an organ that would really support our worship life and the preaching of the gospel. And we have a rich tradition as Lutherans with our hymns and our liturgy. And having a wonderful instrument would allow us to support that really well for congregational singing, for our worship service, etc.
When we start looking at our children's choir and our handbells and our adult choir, there's a lot of things that we'll be able to do with a really well-functioning, well-balanced instrument. We can do bells and organ pieces. We can do youth and youth choir and anthems with organ accompaniment, and just really have a lot of fun with a repertoire that we just can't do right now. So I just think we can really expand what we can offer our bells in repertoire, and same thing with our youth choir and the adult choir. So the sky's the limit. So I am excited for our music program and where it can go with this instrument.
I'm kind of a history nerd, and I value this project for its value of the old organ. So we're taking what we already have, incorporating it and making it better. And I think what a better way to create a lasting legacy and continue the legacy that we already have started. So it's not like we're starting from scratch. We've come so far, we've built so much, and now we're adding more.
28 rank instrument would definitely give me lots of choices. And I think that's what organists in worship, we need variety as well, or we need lots of choices as well, to help enliven the congregational hymns and to bring the text out as much as we can. So I think lots of stops for reeds or flutes or principals would just really be a lot of fun for me when I work on the hymn playing and treating the verses differently. And I think the congregation will really notice the difference as well.
But it's also something that's a gift to the community. Our services are broadcast, so the music of the service gets enhanced. This isn't just about St. John's. This is about ministering with the gospel to people all around us.
I also love that this project combines pipes from our own St. John's organ with pipes from the organ at Luther Seminary. The pipes in this organ have been played by Ruth Reckedahl and Grant Judd for decades, and these pipes have supported this congregation in its singing of hymns and liturgy. And so these same pipes will continue to support this congregation and sing with us. But then this project also combines all of these pipes, all of this pipe work from Luther Seminary, from the Cassavant at the Chapel of the Cross at Luther Seminary. And that means a lot to me personally. I myself have sung with that organ at worship services at the seminary. My mom was a student there at the seminary, so she sang along with that organ. A lot of pastors from St. John's, they also went to Luther Seminary and sang with this organ.
I worshiped and actually preached in that chapel. We loved worshiping. It was a daily experience. Loved worshiping there, and the organ was very important for the music of the seminary. All those voices together along with the organ.
I really like Grandel and Engen. We've heard some very good things from other churches and organists who have worked with them. They build good organs. They build good organs that last.
They feel like they're a good fit for us because they understand where we're coming from and they're willing to work with us. They've given us many proposals. I was not able to go listen to Dr. Mary play this particular instrument, but just hearing how the people that did attend that felt about that instrument, I felt it was good. There were several proposals, two I think for this particular instrument, and just being able to work with a budget and decrease the cost a little bit, I think is important.
Well, I know David Engen the most. At my previous church, St. Barnabas Lutheran in Plymouth, there would be a number of times when we had last minute desperate calls to David. We had an organ recital series at St. Barnabas, and I would sometimes have, on occasion, recitalists come in the day before to practice, and there would be a problem, and I would give David that panicked phone call, and they would be there the same day. And so I just felt like they were very much in tune to the needs of an organist, and just really wanted to support them and the art of the organ in any way. So I think, having that personal experience with him and just knowing how seriously they take what they do, I think that they're just going to do a great job with this instrument.
It will take a lot of prayer and it will take faith. It's a lot of money for the congregation to consider. And we just have to have faith and prayer that it will come through for us.
This is a project worthy of our time and our effort. I really believe it's the right thing to do. I don't think this is just a human endeavor. I think it's a godly endeavor, guided by the Spirit. I think the committee has been very concerned about surrounding all of this with prayer. It's been very much a part of who we are and what we've done.
And I think we've heard, even back in the Grant Judd days, that this organ needs some work. My fear is that someday, if it fails, what do? Do we not have an organ, or do we replace an organ at a lot higher cost? That's my concern too.
We have an opportunity to reconstruct using these pipes and those pipes and everything from Luther Seminary. And when that project is completed, we will need to insure that instrument for $900,000, and we can get it for $300,000. $300,000 is still a lot of money. The part that I think that we need to lift up at this point is that organ, if we go ahead with the project, will not be completed for nearly 3 years. And in that 3-year period of time, whether it's memorials or just plain extra giving by members or involving lots of fundraisers or whatever, I'm confident that we can probably have it paid for by the time, or we will have the money to pay for it by the time we need it.
How we're going to raise the money. I don't know. I've been thinking about that, trying to mull over some ideas, but, even things such as, selling T-shirts in the congregation again, plant sale, a garage sale, all those kind of different things. I think that if we just over the next few years do some of these projects and some of these events, we could, try to raise a good chunk of the money. And then hopefully we have some people who have prayed upon it and are willing to donate financially.
Jesus was once criticized by Judas because a woman poured some very expensive perfume on his feet. And Judas said that was a waste. That money could have been spent a lot more sensibly. But Jesus told Judas to leave her alone because that act of worship was a way of anointing his body before his burial. I think there's a lesson for us there as churches. There are times when we as churches are called upon to make significant investments. We don't want to be wasteful. We want to be good stewards of the resources that we have. But there are times when our worship of Christ calls us to use significant resources for the sake of the proclamation of the gospel and for supporting the worship of our congregations. That's not a waste. That is putting our time and our treasures where it counts the most.
It's the kind of money well spent because it's going to last forever. It's going to outlast me. It's going to outlast my family, into my grandchildren and beyond. And looking outside of myself in my own little Gorton unit, we can really speak to the world. So whatever I can contribute to this will travel outward into not just my family, but the community and beyond. I mean, we're streaming now too, so we can reach people everywhere. And if I can be a part of that, I'm really proud of that.
I think it's worth the investment. It's a legacy of our past. People like Grant Judd, who loved and supported music in this congregation and hoped that one day that the organ would be a better instrument, had worked on possibilities. And also a legacy for the future, for many, many generations that it will serve this community.
Music to St. John's is such a crucial part of how we worship here. And I was brought in through my children and music programs here, and I think we are uniquely placed in the way that I was to touch other community members and spread the gospel and bring them here to us.
I hear as an organist, I hear all the time, or read all the time in organ journals about rebuilt instruments from the 17th century or 16th century that they're going through renovations, and they're giving recitals, and even the Bach organ from his time in Leipzig is still operational and is being used in worship and in concerts. So if an instrument from that century is still available for recitals and operating well.
People have asked if there are going to be organists in the future who will play pipe organs, and I believe there will. There are really good organ programs in colleges right now where there are students learning to play the organ. But I think we as churches can really help them out by building good instruments. It's much more encouraging for students to go into music and to learn the pipe organ when they've experienced good instruments and when they know that they can play good instruments. And I think it'll help us at St. John's to have a really good instrument, because I know for organists it's much more attractive to look at a church music position when there's a good instrument to play. I suppose it's like farming. If you have good equipment, tractors, combines, and all the rest, it's probably much more enjoyable to work at a farm. I think all of us want to have good tools, good resources at our jobs that we can work with. So I think for St. John's, this pipe organ project would really help us in the long run, decades from now, generations from now. It'll help us to find good organists and to retain talented organists here at our church.
Well, when you look at a school building, that's going to be there for 100 years or more. The same with this organ. We'll have this organ in our church for generations to come, for people to enjoy, not only currently, but way down the road, people will be able to enjoy this organ.
I agree with my pastor that the gospel is not only preached, it is also sung. I can't tell you the number of times when I've visited people who are ill, who are dying, and what they know are the hymns of our tradition that give them comfort and hope, and that we can stand in a room and sing with them. And they may not be able to talk very much or do much in response, but it's amazing that even then a sound comes from them because they know that hymn. That's been a part of their life. And I believe that providing good, solid, foundational music support with an organ helps people develop that in their lives so that it serves them well, including that moment in death when they are sure that time has come for them, and yet it's the hymns and the prayers of the church that now sustain them in that time.
We need the congregation to believe in this project, and if they have any questions, we want them to come forward. We don't have all the answers, but it will be a leap of faith. So now I'm getting emotional.
Well, I hope that all of those who are a part of this project and this congregation, this community, and who are considering the possibility of even financially supporting this project, is that they certainly make it a matter of prayer. That in their prayer life they include praying for God's guidance and the opening of people's eyes and their willingness to give gifts to support this particular project. Because I think it really is a generational thing that we provide for the next several generations, a wonderful instrument to support their life of faith in this place.
I guess I would just encourage everyone to really pray and reflect on this project, and I know it's a lot of money, and but I hope that we can see deeper than the dollar signs and the legacy that this will carry on in sharing and spreading the gospel for generations to come. Again, I came here because of the music, because of my kids being welcomed into a choir program, even though we didn't belong here. And I think we can reach a lot of folks who are hurting and need us through music.
I would ask everyone to just pray over this, and hopefully that, we can get the support we need to move ahead on this project, because I think it's important.
Obviously, as a good Christian, the first thing we have to do is to pray about it. And prayer is what's got us to where we are now. And we are given the benefit, literally, of providing for this congregation something that will last for 100 years probably, or it could last longer than that.